Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about the package. I want to talk a little bit more about Lee Harvey Oswald's relationship to this fictitious package. And what we've been told is that Lee took the package, the curtain rods, out of Ruth Payne's garage on the morning of the assassination. He took it to Wesley Frazier's house down the road. He put it in the car. They drove to work together. When they got to the Texas School Book Depository, Wes says that they got out of the car and he stayed behind to recharge his car battery, look at the switching of the railroad, and Lee walked further ahead and went into the building on his own, carrying the package, which was 27 inches long, according to him, cupped in his hand under his arm. And that is the story we have been told. That is the story that goes out on any Discovery channels, documentaries, History Channel, mainstream media, Tracking Oswald programs, and everything. So this is the way in which the narrative has been that explains that rifle got into the building ahead of the assassination. That story comes simply from Frazier's testimony. It comes from nowhere else. There is no witness that says anything to do or as a witness to the fact that Lee took that package into the building the morning of the assassination. It is purely Wesley's account. So we have a problem. We have a big problem because clearly it is an unverifiable account and it is only coming from one person, and yet the Warren Commission believed that story. The Warren Commission took that on board. The Warren Commission ran with that account. So I don't believe any of this is the truth. I don't believe there was a package, and I don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald and Wesley Frazier rode in together on the morning of the assassination. In fact, I believe that Lee Harvey Oswald left Ruth Payne's house the night before. And there's good reason for that. We've pieced together some of the things that both Ruth has said in her testimony and things that have come about. So, for example, we have Ruth Payne being interviewed by Jerry Spence, who was an attorney. In the 1980s, they did a mock trial of Oswald, as though he was still there, to be defended. Obviously he wasn't, but they ran a mock trial. It's all on YouTube, and Ruth Payne actually was put on the stand, and she made a huge deal out of the fact that she was upset the 21st, the night before, that Lee had been in that garage and left the light on. And her reason for making a great big emotional hoo-ha about that is because she wanted to prove that he had been in that garage and retrieved the rifle from the garage. That was going to be her task in presenting this side of the story. So it's a corroboration of the narrative, but it's not a corroboration of the truth. Because in fact, Lee did leave the light on. He had to leave the light on. He had to go in that garage. He went in that garage to collect actually his black trousers that he later changed into from his sea duffel bags from his Marine days. All of the stuff that Lee and Marina had was brought to Irving by Ruth Payne on the 23rd of September. They packed up their house in New Orleans and they brought all of the stuff in Ruth's car, and all of Lee's stuff that he didn't necessarily need straight away was popped into that garage, which was absolutely filled to the brim with junk. So Ruth's testimony is that at 9 o'clock in the evening of the 21st, she went into the garage and noticed the light had been left on her. She put her children to bed. Marina had gone tired for the evening back to her room, and and she presumed that Lee was actually with her, because she felt that he couldn't possibly have gone anywhere in the house without her knowing. So presumably she knew her house well enough to know if somebody had gone out of the front door, you'd know, you'd hear the door. You're familiar with your own house, aren't you? You know roughly where people are moving around in it, even if you're occupied with other things. So it's clear to me that Lee went in the garage sometime before maybe 8:45, collected some black trousers from the garage and a actual black bag, a little small kind of travel bag that he needed. We'll discuss all of that in another video, because I just want to talk about the package right now. So he did not pick up the gun, he did not pick up curtain rods at that point. He went out to the garage, he left through the door of the garage, you know, the up and over door of the garage. He went out of there, he went out and slipped out very quietly, and he actually drove away in a car that had been given to the Oswalds via Ruth and Michael Payne. They had acquired it for their use. So there's lots of talk out there that Lee Harvey Oswald couldn't drive and didn't have a license, and I want to tell you that that is absolutely untrue. He could drive, he had a license. There are countless witnesses that can testify to the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was a driver, and a good driver. So he took the car and he drove that car and he left Irving on the Thursday night, the 21st, around about 8:45, 9 o'clock, 8:45, 9 o'clock. He was out. So of course he's going to leave the light on. If you think about when you open a garage from inside of the house, you go in and you literally put your arm in and you can turn the light on at the wall. So if you were to collect whatever you needed and go out the up and over door, it's at the opposite end, isn't it? So you would have to come back through the garage, turn the light off at the wall, and then walk back through the garage in the dark over all the junk. And you're trying to leave quietly. It's not going to happen. You've got to leave the light on. You don't want to cause a disturbance or a fuss. You've got to go and just leave the light on and be done with it, which is exactly what I believe happened. So Ruth comes down to the garage about 9 o'clock ish. She paints blocks and toys and things, wooden blocks, great big box toys really, for her children, and was varnishing and lacquering them and goodness knows what, and had a saw, so I presume she made them from scratch. So she comes in the garage and she's ticked off about the fact that Lee has left the light on. So now we've got another little conundrum. If you're that annoyed about somebody leaving the light on, and you're really rattled by that, what you would do in your moment of a grievance is you'd go into the bedroom where you believe he is with his wife, Marina, and you would haul him out and you would have a go at him, and you would say, "Why have you left the light on? I never leave the light on. You don't leave the light on in my house." You would say all of those things, wouldn't you? You would do that if you were that annoyed about it. But she doesn't do that, and if she does do that, she knows he's not there and she's lying to us, or she doesn't do that at all and she presumes that he is in the house. And I actually believe she did know that he left the property, because he'd taken the car. It only takes a quick glance out the window to know that he'd left the property the night before. So if he'd left the night before, let's just think about this. If he'd left the night before, how is Wesley's account of him taking the package from the garage down the road a bit into the back of the car, into the back of the black car, and the conversation that ensued about the curtain rods, we talked about it yesterday, and the drive-in, and the account of him walking with it tucked under his arm and going in the back door of the school book depository? How is all that true, Wesley Frazier? See, my idea, I maintain that is completely false. That is a completely fabricated account of Lee Harvey Oswald's movements. We know from our research that Lee was seen at 2 o'clock in the morning of the assassination. So very early on the Friday morning, though, Thursday night, Friday morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, he was seen in a all-night cafe, B&B place, by a waitress who was threatened to be hushed up, and he was with Jack Ruby, of all people. So that's a whole other area we're going to go into, because obviously there's connections all over the shop here. But we come back to the question of, why would Ruth Payne lie? Why would Wesley Frazier and his sister Linnie Mae lie?